Hi there, it's Mary here with another book review. I know it's been a while since the last book review. I had a couple books that I read in between the last book review and this one, but those two are out already, so that's why I wanted to get this one out before it came out for sale. It comes out on sale on January 16th of 2018, so it's very soon as of the time that I'm recording this. It's called When They Call You a Terrorist, a Black Lives Matter Memoir. If I mispronounce your names at all, I am sorry to the authors, but it's by Patrisse Khan-Cullors and Asha Bendele. Patrisse Khan-Cullors is actually one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement. Let's just get something out of the way. The whole Black Lives Matter movement isn't about lessening the importance of somebody else's life mattering. It's actually to bring the importance to others of the black lives. They matter as well as, not instead of. Just thought I'd put that out there ahead of time. I found this book very gentle in her writing. I thought that was interesting. I did see a couple typos, not too many, and hopefully those will be fixed before they come out, before it went to final press, because this is an advanced reading copy. A lot of times there will be little errors that haven't been fixed yet, or even though I wrote down quotes from the advanced reading copy, sometimes things will change around before the final production. I thought it was a really interesting read. It made me cry. It made me angry, which I think are very appropriate emotions to have while reading this. I got excited when they were making steps in the right direction. It starts with the beginning, when she's a kid and her mother working multiple jobs and going to work before the sun comes up and coming home after the sun comes down just to try to make ends meet for her children and herself. It talks about religion a little bit. It talks about the LGBTQ community. In fact, the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement are also members of the LGBTQ, if you weren't already aware. So it dealt with that, and I also loved how much it dealt with mental health. Not going to say characters because these are real life people. That's what I think why it caused so much more stirs of emotion than some books do, is because knowing that this is the real story. This isn't some tragedy made up by someone, and injustices made up by someone as an example. This is actual life. And I am very much so an equal rights for everyone kind of person, but also equal consequences. So if one person gets a slap on the wrist, the other person who did an equivalent thing should get a slap on the wrist. If this person gets a severe punishment, then the other person who did the similar thing should have the severe punishment. It should be equal across the board. If you have the same right, you should have the same consequence. It's just two sides of that coin that are so important to equality in this world. So what I really loved, like I said, was the mental health issues and lack of access to help for that. So her brother, spoilers, but a lot of this stuff's actually already out there anyway, I figure. Her brother started getting arrested at, I believe it was age 14, for just hanging out. She saw her brothers frisked on the street just for hanging out with their friends, not doing anything wrong. And there was no place for them to hang out other than on the streets or in an alley, and I think that's so unfortunate. She, of course, talks about Trayvon Martin at one point in the case and how upset they were. And I was very upset by that case. I wished I could have gone to some of the marches and whatnot in support of Trayvon Martin's family. I had the feeling of, if I can walk down the street with a hoodie up and my Arizona and Skittles, everyone should have that same right to be able to walk down the street and feel safe. Would he have done the same thing if it were me walking down his street in that gated community, whether I belong there or not? I honestly doubt it, but that's part of the problem that we hope to fix. At least I do. With the mental health issues, it turns out that when her brother went to prison at one point for apparently breaking into a house. He broke in through the window of a home. Yes, that is a wrong, but apparently the voices told him to do it, and when in prison they diagnosed him with a schizophrenic disorder. Now, schizophrenia is not what a lot of people think. It's not multiple personalities. It's having hallucinations of sorts where you will have beings telling you what to do, and you feel like you're compelled to do this. And apparently he was also bipolar, which is very common combination. But they diagnosed him in prison. They did not treat him well in prison. And at one point it seemed that they would not allow his family to see him, which is also aggravating to me. They sent him home apparently in his underwear, basically an undershirt and a pair of boxer shorts and a pair of shower shoes or flip-flops, whatever you want to call them. The first time he was in prison, that is how he was sent home, on a bus. He had crushed the medication they had given him, and they didn't let the family know at all about the diagnosis, and it came to a point where they had to go to the hospital. They had to convince him to go to the hospital to get help. And he became very afraid of the police, the people who we expect to protect us from harm, had harmed him so much that he was absolutely afraid, petrified of them. I'm not saying all cops are bad. I'm not. I'm saying that there are some, I like to say with a lot of situations, a few people, speaking of sirens, of course while I'm filming, which I'm not going to cut that out, I'm just going to keep it there. So these people that are supposed to be emergency services hurt him, and I like to say a few people ruin it for everyone else. For reasons why we can't trust as much as we want to and may naturally feel like we should, as the reason why he felt he could no longer trust the police is because a few of them, or well, many in this situation because it was a large grouping of them from the sounds of it, but again, in the grand scheme of things, a few, took advantage of their power and did horrendous things and encouraged others to do horrendous things. I'm not going to get too much into the details. If you read the book, you're going to find out about it. But it did discuss how they don't have the healthcare system, they don't have the mental health care system needed to support the people, especially once they're out of jail. In fact, he went to prison again at one point, and they just kept him drugged. So much so that at the court hearing for that, the first one, he was brought out on a stretcher, and he was bound, apparently, and drugged so much that the judge said, "You should have known better than to bring this man here," and postponed the trial. Luckily, the family found a better lawyer. They found funding to get a better lawyer to help with some of the issues, because of something that happened while in prison the first time, that was considered his third strike. And it's just a long story. But it was really insightful. Although angering and sad, it was still really insightful and inspiring to make you say, kind of makes me at least want to stand up and go, I should do more. A lot of times I feel paralyzed from being able to do more in this world for many reasons. I definitely want to promote kindness to everyone and respect to everyone. And in fact, I'm wearing a shirt today that's kind of the opposite of the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, for a reason. It's actually supposed to represent see, listen, speak out, is actually the intent of this shirt when I bought it, and I really liked that message. So definitely like the idea of we need to all come together as humans to help each other and recognize inequalities and call people out on them and help educate them. No matter what their generation, you should be able to have an intelligent, calm conversation and try to explain to them maybe why they shouldn't speak that way or behave that way. Right now we have a lot of the Me Too movement, but today I'm talking about Black Lives Matter movement. So again, it's one of those speak out. You know, if you see it, if you hear it, speak out against it if it's wrong. How else are we going to get better as a community of human beings on this world? So I did write down a few quotes, even though it's not a set book yet. They usually give a warning if you're going to do reviews on advanced reading copies of, don't use the quotes in reviews because they may change, but I figure put that out there and start telling you about it. Some of these quotes are a little long, but so this one starts in the middle of a sentence, and it goes as follows. What if there had been appropriate interventions, medical interventions, compassionate interventions early on? What if all of us had access to health care that centered on the patient, not the money? Systems like this actually exist on this planet in this time. Why is America so tethered to punishment and judgment, to one life mattering and another not? That for the advanced reading copy, that was on page 120. I don't know if it'll be the same pagination on the final product, but that really hit home. And she's right. There are countries in this world that have free health care. Many countries don't. They actually center on the patient, not how much money they're making off of that patient and off of that illness. I would love to see that happen here. I mean, we're supposed to be a first world country, but we're lagging behind in a lot of ways. Same thing with equal education, which is another thing that is addressed in the book. She actually is sent in junior high, Patrisse Khan-Cullors that is, and she is sent to a school that's nearby, but it's a la-di-da type community, so to speak. And she's basically the only black girl in her class. I don't remember if she was the only or just one of the few in the school, but yeah. Which can be alienating and intimidating, I'm sure, to be the only. I've been in situations where I'm the only of something in a group. Luckily, I'm the kind of person who, for some reason, has always been able to be true to myself no matter what my situation, and be damned whomever doesn't like it. So, again, talking about the inequalities, including lack of health care, something that many of us see as something so basic, but people who come from poorer families or areas that don't have adequate places to get healthful foods. Their grocery store when she was growing up was 7-Eleven. That's the only grocery store they had in their neighborhood. So they had no access to food that wasn't carried at 7-Eleven. I find that so tragic. I was very lucky, grew up in the country. We didn't have a lot of money, but my parents were gardeners. So part of the reason I probably love vegetables today. So I was always so fortunate to still have nutritious foods available to me. She talks at one point in the book about how they lived on basically Honey Nut Cheerios. And when they didn't have milk, they ate them with water. I cannot imagine having that insecurity of being that hungry or not knowing and being so limited on my choices of food. I've been very fortunate in that respect. But again, it's just so aggravating, and I will need to find out ways to do more than just these videos. Another quote that she had in the book that I loved was actually from Emma Goldman, a famous feminist. She and immigration activist back in her day, a long time ago. She's also mentioned in a fictional book called Ragtime by E.L. Doctorow. That was my first exposure to her, was from Ragtime, actually the musical version of the book. But I thought this was a very wonderful saying, and it also doesn't seem to be pushing men down, which so many times you hear about feminism pushing men down. That's part of the reason why I'm doing air quotes, is because so many people, feminism is supposed to be about equal. The genders are equal, no matter what you identify as, male, female, or something else. So, in the words of Emma Goldman, I demand the independence of woman, her right to support herself, to live for herself, to love whomever she pleases, or as many as she pleases. I demand freedom for both sexes, freedom of action, freedom in love, and freedom in motherhood. I was not aware until reading this book that she was also one of the first advocates for the LGBTQ community before it was even called LGBTQ. So I thought that was really nice that they addressed that. And another one that I'm going to quote that was in this book, on page 180, she's quoting a Facebook post from her friend Alicia, and it goes, "BTW, stop saying that we are not surprised. That's a damn shame in itself. I continue to be surprised at how little Black Lives Matter, and I will continue that. Stop giving up on Black life, Black people. I will never give up on us. Never." And then Patrisse Khan-Cullors actually responded with hashtag Black Lives Matter. And that's kind of where it starts for their organizing this. And it's become a global phenomenon, the Black Lives Matter movement. Like I said, it's not to take away from somebody else mattering. It's to remind people that they matter just as much. And too many people in these communities have been given up on, essentially. They're just assumed to be gangsters or drug dealers or users and so many other things that are considered negative in this world. And there are so many people who think it's amazing, and we shouldn't be amazed either by their successes. They're people. I want everyone to succeed. Everybody has their own talents. Everybody has their own different things that they're really smart about. And I really think that we should encourage more of that amongst everyone. Encourage the person who maybe does really well with crafting but doesn't necessarily do as well with writing an essay. That's fine. They do an art that not everyone can do, no matter how hard they try. So I think it's a shame that there are people who are marginalized in this country. She does also talk about Hispanic Americans, or whichever term preferred at this time for it. So I think that's really great that she does discuss some of this stuff, including immigration a little bit. But like I said, this book, it made me sad, it made me angry. I got excited when things were going well. It is, I feel like it's a pretty important book. And like I said, there's not an anger in her writing, which is so lovely. It goes again to show how keeping calm to present your position on something or to educate somebody on something can really go a long way. Being attacking on what your point is, honestly, a lot of times that just makes the person that you're trying to get to listen just shut down, to stop listening and just push you out, become even more stubborn. And I understand that, because I'll do that too at times. So I really liked her presentation of it. It was quite wonderful. And like I said, it is a memoir, so it does discuss her life, but it also discusses how she got to the point of making the Black Lives Matter movement and the things in her life that made her capable of doing it so well, in my opinion. She went to some schools that really concentrated on some wonderful things to have for a social consciousness. So I will recommend that this book be read. It is wonderful. I already told a friend, when I was in the first chapter, I already knew I was going to pass this book on to a friend of mine. I sent her a message saying, I'm going to have to get you this book. You're going to want to read this book. So I know this was kind of, hopefully it was enough of a review for you. And I hope that those of you who read it get as much out of it as I did. Need to figure out more ways to do more other than just correcting people one-on-one when I do see ignorance or hear ignorance, for that matter. And mostly that's been my thing, is even if it's somebody I know well, I'll say, no, that's not okay that you just said that. I call them out. But anyway, as always, I hope that you'll be kind to each other. Have a great day. Bye.